Hello, good morning. Hi, everybody. It's Elaine Williams and Kathy Keegan with Still Human Podcast. It is March 2nd, 2021. So excited. Today we have the most amazing guest. But I just wanted to say welcome. If you are new to us, we wanted to start a podcast called Still Human so that we could make fun of ourselves and pull the curtain back behind coaching and take a comedic look at business and life and being an entrepreneur and the many challenging and fabulous lessons that come with that. So that is why we created this podcast, out of our pain and wanting to share our learned pain wisdom.
Right. We've turned
and we're so delighted that you're here.
Channeling, pain into fabulous and challenging. And that's the way we roll here. It's not toxic positivity, by the way. That's very important. This is about reframing. It's about reframing.
Reframe. It's all about the reframe. And speaking of reframe, I am so excited. We have the most amazing guest today. She is a Brooklyn gal. She's been on Wall Street, award-winning salesperson. She is fabulous. She leads a team of people. I learn and laugh from her every time. I am so excited today to bring our fabulous, amazing Ro Couture de Saro with us today. Woo! Ro, are you with us? Woo!
Yay! I'm here.
So excited. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
I just love that.
I'm so excited to be here.
I love that your middle name is Couture. How fabulous is that?
I know.
Sometimes people think it's my business name. And I'm like, no, I was born with this name. And that's why I'm not giving it up. It's like, would you give up Couture? Yeah.
No, but it almost sounds made up. It's so fun, you know?
I mean, when I got married in 1985, and, this was, kind of like a little bit, not feminist, but, women empowerment beginning and all that. So I was like, well, I am not, I have a name for myself. I have a career. So I don't know who DeSaro is. I can't identify with DeSaro. It's not me. I don't know who this DeSaro is. I know Couture and I love Couture. So I'm keeping Couture. I kept Rosemary Couture for 15 years of my marriage. It took me 15 years to really get it. Okay, it's time to add DeSaro to it because I'm a DeSaro. It's like 35 years later, finally a Couture DeSaro.
I love that, though. I get it. You work so hard. And I mean, there's just so many great stories. I'm like, where do we start? Coming from Brooklyn.
Both my kids have Couture as their middle name on their birth certificates. So they could use it as if it looks like their last name, too, if they want.
Was it your middle name or your maiden name?
It's my maiden name, but I gave it to my children as a middle name because it was way too much trouble to give it to them as a double last name. It just,
Oh, yeah.
The world just wasn't having that back then.
I love it. Well, there's so many amazing stories. We like to add humor to everything. And I was emailing Kathy early this morning about topics. And I said, I wish you could see my hair. It looks like I look like Medusa right now. It was, pre-shower. And Kathy, what was your response?
Snakes on a crane. Yum. But bum. Where are our snare drums?
But bum. Anyway,
listening and watching the two of you, I'm always cracking up. And so when you invited me to be on here, I was like thrilled because I'm like, I love the way the two of you feed off of one another. I'm like, I just hope I could interject into that and add some flavor to it.
Well, that's why I started coming to your meetings, eWomen in Central New Jersey, because you look like you were having fun amidst the chaos. Because with all due respect, the technical guy was always rolling in late, and then women were driving from all over. Kathy would come from Manhattan. People were coming from all over New Jersey, from Connecticut, from Pennsylvania, and there was always sort of this pandemonium, but you always seemed to be having fun. And I remember thinking, you can learn from this woman, Elaine. Breathe and take notes, because a lot of stuff was happening that was, quote, wrong, but you would roll with it and laugh and keep going. And I remember thinking, damn, because I want to look good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm fun when I'm comfortable and I can be funny, but if I feel tense, especially with technology, watch out, right?
And
Total.
so
Totally,
what it
totally.
is that steady state. You know, that's the whole thing. It's sort of there's this swirl, and Rose stands there. And so she kind of puts a fine point on it. She's the point of contact. She's
Yeah.
the center. And that takes incredible leadership skills to be able to do that and to look as poised as you always do. Do you feel poised all the
And
You know,
time?
fun,
to,
and
to, to
you
tell
have
you,
your own
tell you the
style.
truth, it was from growing up of trying to protect myself emotionally that I would just like, it's okay, doesn't bother me, it's fine. It's like, my brother was like running away and going to drugs to, to feel good. And my way of feeling good, when my emotional protection was just like, no, I'm easygoing. That's okay. This is life. It's expected, and I didn't realize now until I'm older, like how that served me. That I'm like, it's like this is life. Nobody has ever said life was going to be easy, and you just got to roll with the punches because you know what? So
Right.
my expectations was even though I aspire to do great things in life, but my expectations wasn't like it was like, well, maybe this one is it, maybe this one isn't. All right, good, bad, indifferent, who cares? So what?
Wow.
And it's serving me now in a lot of these situations. And I even realized, I know you guys had said maybe think of something that you're embarrassed about, and we're all have embarrassing moments of like, I mean, yeah, can I tell you about, the ones that, the human body embarrassments that we all
Oh,
have that we don't want to talk
what
about?
is happening?
Yeah, can we
What is
talk about
happening
the
with my
one that
boobs?
I yeah, I thought the woman was pregnant when she wasn't, or the one that I
Oh
thought the
God.
woman wasn't pregnant and she was 7 months pregnant? Can
Oh
I?
no.
We all had those. But I literally could not think of something, and I even asked my husband last night. And then this morning I woke up and I remembering more of the almost embarrassments, but then this morning I remembered waking up to something that I was embarrassed about that I never told anyone. So I was by myself. Yeah, right? I was by myself, but I realized why for years, I mean, it's a 9/11
Mm,
story. So I tell my 9/11 story, right?
mm.
You've heard, I think both of you have heard my 9/11
Yep.
story, my survivorship story, my lessons learned that I found out 10 years later of the lessons learned. Well, while I was learning those lessons, because I was put to the test to learn those lessons. I didn't do it because I was like, oh, let me see what I learned that day. It
Mm,
was, no, you're writing a
right.
book. Can you put your story in there, please? And I was like, for the publisher, I was like, okay, I'll write a story. I have no idea what I'm going to write about, but let me revisit what happened to me that day. And then I realized, and then I put everything in except this one piece. And I'm realizing that the reason why I did not want to is because I was shamed.
Mm,
I was felt shameful and I felt guilty. And I felt that if I tell this people are going to judge me, people are going to shame me, and people are going to think lesser of me. They're going to think different of me. Like, and then the reason why I'm bringing this up now, because it was a calm in the chaos moment, but I literally was embarrassed how calm I was on 9/11.
mm.
And so
Wow.
I share that a little bit, that I was calm, and that's what the lessons that I've learned. I'm like, huh, what does that tell me? Besides being okay, she'd make a great EMT, emergency medical technician. She's there. Triage, okay, Ro is right there. She's okay because I was handling that
Yeah.
well. So, do you want to know what it is?
Yes.
Yeah,
Should I
tell
tell?
us. Tell us. I'm like
I
on the
don't
edge of
think
my
I
seat.
know. I think I've told one or two people. I don't think I've ever told anyone publicly. I don't think I've ever. You know me, and I'm so. Both of you know how vulnerable I
Yes.
am, and I'm
You're
like,
like, I'm an open book.
I'm an open book. I tell everybody because I come from this place of giving people permission. I give people permission to go out there and mess up because you know what? Because we're human. That's why I love
Mm,
your podcast because we are human. We will mess up and that will happen. So why pretend it's not going to happen and put that extra craze on you?
Yeah.
Because
mhm.
I'd always be like, well, because when I feel that way, I'm not happy. So like, you know what? All I want to do is be happy. So Why do I make myself so crazed and then I'm not happy?
Right.
I'm like, it's not worth it. I want to be happy, so I'm going to make myself happy. So, you want to know?
Yes, please, por favor.
Okay. This is like, so when I was waiting for so we had to give a little bit of a backdrop. So when in the heat of the moment, there was a barge where the boats from New Jersey would cross the Hudson River to take people to Manhattan to and from work, right? They're like a 5 minute, in case you don't know, New York, it's a 5 minute boat ride from New Jersey to Manhattan. And there are boats that come in from various different parts of the state. So there's like different locations, and they could be like an hour away, like Hoboken, Weehawken, and down, where I was in Jersey City. So several boats were coming in. People started getting crazy. The barge started rocking because we were packed like sardines, and people were getting very irate, right? Talking about calm. They were not calm. They were letting the deckhand yelling at them to close the gate so that their boat that was waiting in the river to wait for a slip to open to come in. So they were like forcing them to close the gate. So like people that really legitimately wanted to get on that boat, they wouldn't even allow them to get on the boat. It was getting crazy. So I was,
And just said this, it's 9/11.
yeah, this is
Pandemonium.
9/11.
Pandemonium.
Pandemonium. 9/11. This is before the towers fell, but it was after the second plane when I ran for the second plane, and we literally could see TWA, and everybody knew this was no longer an accident. We knew that we were being attacked, and so now we're in that fear mode of we are being attacked. We don't know if another plane is coming. We need to get out as quick as possible. And me,
And you were
I was
right
not.
down there.
I was
You were
staying
right down
behind.
there.
I was staying
Right.
behind. I was letting my boats come and go because I knew my family was there. I knew friends were down there. I was trying to find them. So I was not getting on my boat because I knew once I got on the boat, it was going to be it would be harder to even find them. But I knew I had a way out. So I finally did take the last boat because it started getting really dangerous. And I said, maybe I can do this from the other side, a little more,
Right.
I finally had a smart moment, And I said, so I got on the boat, not knowing it was the last boat out because the towers were about to fall. I get on the boat, I go across the river, Jersey City, which is bustling with people. Goldman Sachs building is the building that's right there. It was desolate. I mean, it was like Twilight Zone. Literally was like, could you imagine Jersey City, not a soul around? Like just picture that. I
It
mean,
was such a
not
weird thing.
a soul around. You would think that people were staying there watching, but it was just so fearful that people got in their cars and ran home.
Sure.
So here's my embarrassing my admittance right now. I walk into so I'm still want to be there to try to help my family. Say, hey, my car's right here. I could get in the car and we could go home. I walk into the Goldman Sachs building. It's empty, and I see all like the breakfast and the coffee urns, and I go over and I calmly make myself a cup of coffee. And I sat there and I drank a cup of coffee in calmness. And I was like, why? And then I never told anybody that because like I felt that why like people would shame me that like how could you make a cup of coffee? And I'm like, oh, it's free. I'm gonna get a cup of coffee. And I was like, but I realize now that I was just willing to stay there as long as possible to reach my family, to reach my friends. And so maybe the coffee was going to calm me a little bit more, and I didn't realize I didn't feel chaos. So I made myself a cup of coffee. And then I'm like, how could you make yourself a cup of coffee when people are like running to save their lives and you're sitting there and just drinking a cup of coffee? It's like,
Well,
so talk about that's why. But now I could be on front of a stage in front of people and things could go wrong. And it's who cares? But right after that, when the towers fell, that's when everything shifted
yeah,
for me. And that's when I was like, oh, this is real.
this is really
This is
well.
this is real. This is happening all over then I got in my car and turned on the radio and I heard about the Pentagon. That's when I got like,
Shit.
oh my God, I need to get home. Like, all right, time to save me and stop trying to save everybody
What I
else.
love about
That was my shift in
what I
that
love
thinking.
about your story,
Yeah.
Rob,
Oh, thank you for
is
saying
that what you were doing was actually waiting to see if anybody else came. You were taking that pause and taking that moment in the midst of chaos, saying, I want to be able to help. If I stop and I take this pause and drink a delicious cup of coffee, because who doesn't like a nice free cup of coffee? But what you were doing was you were giving space even in that crazy moment for someone else to come along because you wanted to be able to help. That was in you to be able to help and to show up and to, you know, it's just that instinct that you have to want to be of service. So it's such a beautiful
Yeah, I
story.
realize that now.
I love that. And
But why for 10
thank
years
you.
why was I shamed for it? I
Well,
felt
and
shameful,
that's what
right?
I want to talk about, because
Yeah.
this is why we created this podcast, because I think women especially, we shame ourselves for
Mhm.
being human. Like, listen to the radio. Oh my God, you shouldn't have hair here, here, here. And if the hair on your head should be perfect and glossy and da. Like, you shouldn't have. I'm listening to, I listen to podcasts when I
Mhm.
clean, and there's a podcast with all guys, and there's this whole thing about manscaping and how, oh my God, nose hair. And I'm like, we're human.
We're
We're
human.
human. Of course, tweeze your hair, but like, do we have to shame people about it, right?
Yeah.
And also, I have been in weird situations where I found coffee incredibly comforting. Like, the smell of coffee and bacon in the morning makes my soul feel like I'm home and
Mm.
everything's going to be okay. Like, and but I so appreciate that, because I work with stories, and like, what stories do we tell ourselves that
Mhm.
lower our vibration? you know um I have shared this before, but not in a long time. So I used to volunteer for Landmark Education at the World Trade Center, and you always had to. I was there the Friday night before September 11th. I was there in one of those towers on, I forget what floor. So you had to like show like two forms of ID, and it was always like a pain in the ass. My first thought when I saw the first plane hit, because I was groggy, I'd worked a bunch of nights in a row. My first thought was, well, shit, now it's really going to be hard to get in those buildings. Like, that was my first selfish thought.
Right.
Like, not worried about the people, but like, I was groggy. I just woke up. My first thought was about me.
Well, I think
I'm not proud of that, but that's where I was. It was Tuesday morning. I had just worked Saturday, Sunday, Monday nights, super long hours at Tao restaurant. And my roommate was freaking out. And I was just kind of like, what's happening?
Yeah,
And
you didn't have the full, breadth of
none of
what
us
was
did.
really happening.
We did
You didn't
not have the
understand it.
context. We did not know what
Right.
was
I
happening.
think it would be I think it would be fun to write inner dialogue like that, because that happened to me 10 years ago when I was diagnosed with cancer. So I had three thoughts in quick succession. So the doctor says it's going to be chemo and radiation, and I was like, I was hoping to avoid the chemo part. And my first thought was, oh crap, I'm going to lose my hair. And then my second thought was, that was your first thought? Honestly? Oh my God, you are so much more vain than you would ever admit to anybody. And then the third thought was, I'll do whatever it takes. Just hit me with it. Tell me what to do. And then everything went to a blur. But we do have those inner dialogues, and we are built for survival and for self-preservation. And so to sort of think of that first, is I think it's important to go through that, to think those things anyway. So yeah, that is just, it's an amazing story, because that day is just etched in our minds for those of us who were living in the area. And it was this really.
And so that day was a pivotal moment in my life that I recognized 10 years later that I'm doing what I'm doing today. I'm a coach today because of that day.
Mhm.
I changed my career because of that day. The lessons learned changed my life forever. So there are now, it's actually positive emotions. So that's another shame, guilt was that, how do you use such a tragic day to say that was the day that I really actually found my calling?
Mm.
Right.
I mean, it's like, that's like, like opposite bipolar,
Well,
on the
one of the reasons
spectrum.
I drove over an hour every time, when I was living in New York, one of the reasons I drove to that particular meeting was because of what you created and a community of people who were all survivors of 9/11, who also that day said, whoa, wait a minute here, I need to reassess. And so there's a vitality there of being given a second chance in some ways and saying,
Hmm.
what do I want to try? What is something else that I haven't explored yet? There's an opportunity here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these are
Yeah.
all
And you,
things that create that, where I could throw all the expectation out the window, that because expectations really keep people stuck and
our
unhappy
resentments
and
waiting to be
unfulfilled.
happen,
They are.
waiting to be happen,
They
waiting to
are.
happen.
And, so it's that, yeah, it's that main piece. It's that main piece of like, how can you continue going when everything around you is falling apart? And
Right.
how could you stay in that? How could you stay happy? It's a journey. So
It's a
I'm
journey.
always happy. You'll never know from me, not because I'm like purposely not telling you, but you'll never know whether my life is falling apart right now or I am totally like everything is in flow and everything's working. Because what's the difference? What's the difference? It's like this is part of life. Some days are great, some days aren't. So good, bad, or indifferent. So what?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I love about your leadership too, Ro, is I feel like I can show up as myself, which sometimes I feel like an evolved thought leader, and other days I feel like a petty, small, wee 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 Chihuahua woman.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we have the range. But what I love about you is I'll be like, well, she didn't call me back, or I've emailed her twice, and you'll go, oh yeah, well, her father's dying, or like you know what's going on with people, and whenever you share it, it's never from a gossipy place. It's from a compassionate leader place.
I
And
don't
and I'm
judge.
always amazed when I'm like, well, so and so, well, I don't know, and you'll be like, oh yeah, well, she's going through this. But it's always anyway, it just
When
inspires
I
me.
was young, I started asking and I don't remember when I started this. It could have been just like in my teenage years, or maybe when I was just, I have a psychology degree. So maybe when I was studying psychology in college, it might have come through. I would always look when somebody did me wrong, I'd be like, huh, wonder what happened to her that she got out of the wrong side of the bed today. I would say
Right.
that to myself all the time. Up, you got out, you got out on the wrong side of the bed. It was something my mother would say to me. But I would be like, but I had this curiosity of always because I'm fascinated by the mind and the brain and all that. Be like, huh, wonder what triggered her to be so mean, or what triggered her to be so callous, or
Right.
where is she getting hurt? Because when I went through uh, when I went through college, first started to be a physical therapist, taking classes with pre-med students at
Oh
Stony Brook
God.
University, like 1,000 kids in my class, was just so not me. And I was just partying, to be honest, and not attending class and not doing this. And they literally sent me to a psychologist or psychiatrist, I don't remember what it was, because I had no responsibility. I didn't care. I was like still this calm person that, responsibility was like it didn't matter. Like I didn't like freak out for cutting classes. I didn't freak out if I got an F. I wasn't like talk about like the opposite, that a bad that could happen when you're too calm. And I started going to psychologist, and through the psychologist I analyzed my parents, and I analyzed my grandparents, and I looked at their life, and I saw how my mother didn't feel loved, and I'm like, "Huh,
Mm,
how could she love me if she didn't feel loved herself?" So it's not
right.
me. So I got all of the bottom line was that I just realized it's not me. It's not me.
It's never about
Everybody
us,
has
right?
their issues. Everybody has situations. Everybody has things going on, and everybody. So it's not about me. And that kind of just like really opened up my world and changed my world. So I was very lucky to have psychology therapy sessions at 18 years old
Yeah.
for free,
Yeah.
paid for by my college. But
Wow.
then I went and then I shifted a degree to psychology, and then suddenly I got my A's. I found my home.
You found
It's
it.
like I know when you're not when you're forcing I was
Oh
forcing
God.
something and
It blows up
forcing
in your
it doesn't
face.
work. It blows up in your face. But here I was, I found when I was loved, and that's when I took the class of men and women, and that's when I've been an advocate for women ever since then. I've been an advocate for women now for over 40
Mm.
years.
I love it. And what
So
would you say, what is the biggest theme you see working with women in business today, right now?
the biggest thing is women learn in a collective environment. Women learn in community. We grow in community. We transform in community. We do not transform and get to our next best level in our quiet little room, listening to someone's video and doing someone's homework because what we do is because of everything we just spoke about today. Because we bring shame based meetings to that work, we bring guilt meetings to that work, we bring our lack to that work. And men don't do this. They don't bring those meetings. We bring these meetings that it's us, the reason why this is not working. It's me why this is not working. But when you're in a collective environment, my women's circles, right? When you're in that collective environment and be like, Elaine's messed up as me. Ah,
Right.
Kathy too. Oh my God, look at her. She's just as messed up as me. She's like, I'm okay. But
It's
it
so,
changes your mind and your brain and it opens you up and it moves you from that fear-based thinking into your prefrontal cortex and it gives you insight, it gives you breakthroughs, it gives you enough that you now can see clearly and you can see the truth. And then you can start
wow.
showing up as the truth.
I feel like I'm the smartest person because I'm surrounded by two of the most brilliant brain coaches right here today. So because I get it. Like I know my biggest opportunity is here and my biggest challenge
And
is
she's
here.
pointing to her
So you're just
forehead.
like Henry
It,
Ford.
Yeah.
She's pointing to her forehead. You're just
whatever
like
you think
Henry
you can
Ford.
achieve, you're right. Yeah. But
Remember
yeah,
what in the Think and Grow Rich book where he says that they actually were trying to dethrone him because he wasn't smart and people were actually trying to take him out of his role and his position and they actually were going to court about this or arbitration, whatever it was back then. And he looked and said the phone. Remember the old days where you have the phone with different buttons and it would light up with different extensions?
Yep.
He would be like, you ask me a sales question, I don't know the answers. See that button? That's my
yep,
sales expert. You ask me a question about like my numbers and my marketing. See that button? He's my business expert. Boom! I hit that button. I have access to all the
yep.
answers, so I don't have to be the know-it-all. I don't have to be
I
jack
love
of all
it.
trades. I don't have to be
Right.
this. Just because I'm CEO doesn't mean I'm jack of all trades.
Right. And it's an
Right.
excellent
And
point.
I think
And
that's
I
another I think that's one thing with my clients. I say, okay, we're going to laugh at the technology because you're going to learn it and then it's going to change. So if we don't laugh, we'll cry. And I want to teach you just enough so that you know how to get help because I know I get bogged down. So, I'm learning the nuances. And I always say business is like a blob. Like, you're like, oh my God, I'm speaking. This is so cool. Oh, yeah, I have to have clients and I need to be able to close. Oh, I have no standards or procedures. Help, help, help. It's never like this thing.
yeah.
Yeah, you build you
It's
build a
we
well-oiled
have
machine. You
to
don't start with a well-oiled machine.
Oil.
yeah.
You need oil? Shit.
And you got to bring that dab of faith in there. Because you have to see it. You do have to visualize it. You do have to feel it. You do have to let it happen, and you have to release and surrender on certain things. And that the jack of all trades is a release to
Yeah,
be like, where's my zone of genius? What's my superpowers? And then who do I need to surround myself that has the superpowers that where I don't?
right.
And just
And
let it
that's
go,
one
let it
reason
flow.
I'm learning so much from doing this podcast with Kathy because we started recording on our own and then we've been doing it with an editor and stuff for a year. And it's been so great because I'm like the drive, let's go, let's go, let's go. And she's like, maybe we should, she helps like take me off of like bing, 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 bing. We
Right.
decided I'm kind of like a chinchilla locked
Take
in
a
the
look at a
hallway.
different
We
perspective.
decided
Yeah, so you're a
yesterday.
great team, and
Yeah, we decided yesterday that she's like a chinchilla. Bing, ba bing, 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 bing. But
Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
she
I used to call her the Roadrunner.
she totally. And then roadrunners are adorable too, just like chinchillas.
I know.
One of the things you do
Yes.
is you inspire me. And so it's a mutually beneficial relationship because you give me energy where I don't normally have energy. You help me see things in a way that I might normally not see them on my own. So you give me perspective. And so, and
Yeah.
you give me, this morning we did in this exchange we were talking about earlier, where she just Elaine wrote down just a few different thoughts. And I come from an improv background. And I was like, yes, and that's how I start going. You just gave me 5 inputs. And now I'm like,
And then you took
right.
off.
And then that's when
then you
that's
take off.
when I'm pew, 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 pew.
And it's
Because
so funny, like,
she gave you the inspiration to take inspired action.
Right.
right.
And that
And we-
inspiration lets you actually take action versus getting stuck in your head perhaps.
Stuck in
and
your head,
then being
right.
What do you mean? What do you
this is
mean?
exactly
perhaps?
why I am so adamant.
That's right. What were you gonna say, Ro?
I know this is why I'm so passionate right now about helping humans understand how men and women can work effectively together, because men have superpowers, women have superpowers, and we both have a little bit of each, masculine and feminine. But if we could understand and really believe that the feminine superpowers are indeed freaking powerful, because they are, and when men understand that, and then we could integrate the two together, the world would be productive, businesses would be flourishing, we'd be like, our bottom line, talk about efficiency. It's about why you two ladies are so efficient together, because where you're great, you help her lift her up, and where she's great, she's helping you lift up or lift down.
Kathy's so
In
good
this
at
situation,
summing
maybe
up.
lift down,
It's so amazing.
and that's the world. That's how the world should be.
It's such a good point. There's new stats out that companies that have women on the board and women in leadership are way more effective.
They outperform.
But you know what? That stat is not new. You know
It's
what's
not a new
sad?
stat.
That's not a new stat.
Right.
That stat has been out for years and years and years, that across the board in all departments, women who are in the companies that have women in leadership positions across the board, they knock out their competition like hands down.
Wow.
I mean, it's there. Numbers don't lie. It's there. Yet this is why I get pissed off, because now it's like 5 years. That stat's out 5 years, 7 years. I should get it exactly when that study was done, and we're still in the same place. Like,
Well, I think
what's up with that?
well, hopefully things keep evolving, and that's one reason. And it's so exciting that there's so many cool podcasts and platforms, and
Exactly.
women are collaborating more, and I'm learning how to collaborate. That's been one of my lessons, is learning that as a partner, I have a lot to work on. I have a lot to work on. I can be like, I'm working so hard, or, oh my God, she's going to outshine me. Wait, like, it's so interesting. I'm just trying to,
There's room for all of us.
and I try to say, be curious, Elaine. Can you let go of the judgment and just be curious? Like, interesting. Just notice, instead of like,
It's nice to know you've been listening to me, Elaine. I'm the curiosity and Wonder Woman.
you're rubbing off on me some more, which I'm so happy. So, oh my God. Well, this is so fun. So, what, as we're wrapping up today, Ro, one final thought, one final story you want to share with us?
It's, if you want to have fulfillment in life, I've chased money and I found it. I chased freedom and I found it. I chased, a position, a career, and all that stuff. It's really all about fulfillment at the end of the day. And I was even chasing happiness. But we have this myth that when we're successful, when I make 6 figures, I'll be happy. When I have the man of my life, I'll be happy. When I'm skinny malinky, I'll be
when
happy.
I'm back to my size 4 from being
when I'm like, and I get rid of my wrinkles, I'll be happy, and all that kind of stuff. Really, the end of the day is about fulfillment. So what fulfills you? What gives you that like, "Ah, I feel good. I feel good about what I did." And just that's the answer is fulfillment. Do what fulfills you. And and you could then get rid of the shame and the guilt. Recognize it. Recognize it's not you. Recognize the truth. Find the lies. Remember that, in the word belief, the word lie is right in the middle of that word.
Mm.
LIE, smack right in the middle of it. So, what are the lies you're telling yourself? And just really get over it. Just realize that they are lies, they're not truth. Find the truth, find the truth, and you'll find fulfillment.
Mm.
I love it.
Because that's
I
what my
love it.
story is. It took me all these years. So don't wait till you're 63 years old like me, where you realize it's like, I only just wanted to be fulfilled my whole life. And everything else I was doing was what the world was telling me I need to do, what
Right.
culture was telling me. Do what you want to do. Find out who you are. Find out what makes you fulfilled and happy, and you'll find it.
That's so
I do
great.
that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of the journey is everybody has to kind of, not, try it and whatever. I was chasing comedy. Let me chase this thing and then I'll feel validated. Then I'll feel successful, and I've learned, I get high off of coaching people, like a natural high,
Yeah.
like a good high.
Yeah.
I love watching people blossom and grow and find their voice and become visible. It's like, I'm like
Yeah.
this,
Well, it's energetic.
Listen, I was just in church, and I don't want to get religious, but I was at church this last Sunday, and he was talking about the story of Jesus, and it was talking about the wine when Jesus made wine and the whole thing, and they called him a glutton, and they called him all these things. When basically, my pastor was like, "What we need to get drunk on life. That's the drunkenness we need. We need to get drunk on life, on happiness, on showing up and being who you are."
I love it. And Kathy, what were you going to say?
Um, um, oh shoot. Well, oh, I know. Is that so for me too? This whole idea of you're trying different things. What's helped me is to view them as experiments. And initially, if I probably couldn't have had a career as a scientist because I would try something and if it didn't work, I'd just stop. And the fact is, you do have to do stuff over and over again. There's that fine line I've talked about between insanity and mastery, because both are doing the same thing over and over. In one case, you are getting results, in the other, you're not. But we deal with very fine lines in our lives. And so if you think of them as experiments, if you can think of yourself as a scientist and observer, and the term that you both used, curiosity, being curious, that's a big, it's a big reframe, and it helps you see that everything you do adds up to where you are today.
Even if it doesn't seem
And
to make
that,
sense at the time,
yeah,
right? Like sometimes
because Kathy, you're a problem solver. You're a problem solver, and the biggest problem with problem solvers is that they know that you could solve the problem even better and even more, and you keep on going, and you want to wait till that perfectionism kicks in. But get curious, and I love that. Make it an experiment. Life is an experiment.
I
I
love
love
it.
it.
I love it. So,
Love it.
Ro, if somebody wants to find you and they want to learn more about you and your fabulous coaching and gifts and packages, what's the best way?
So my business is Gutsy Gals Get More. Are you surprised? Um, and most of my social media handles, with the exception of Instagram, because I had it but I lost it, is Be a Gutsy Gal. So you can find me in LinkedIn at Be a Gutsy Gal. You can find me on Facebook at Be a Gutsy Gal. And on Instagram, it's Gutsy Gal underscore leaders. So those are my handles. Come play with me wherever you want to play with me there. Gutsy Gal Truth Talk is my Facebook group. And this is what I love, having these conversations. And this has been a pleasure of being here. I have a self-care classes coming up, self-mastery
All
programs,
right, with
workshops
Marie.
coming up. So I'm excited to what 2021 is bringing everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Kathy Keegan, you're this amazing coach and speaker. Your mission is to end needless workplace suffering which I just freaking love because that's everybody, right? And how do people find you, my
At
love?
KathyKeegan.com. That's Kathy with a K and Keegan with a K. And Elaine, I'm thinking that I want to know how I get in touch with you. How do I do that?
Well, thanks for
I wanna look
asking.
good on camera.
I'm
And sound good.
Yeah, if you want to look good or work on your stories, connect more with your why. I have a new, really fun Captivate the Crowd Facebook group page that's free. You just have to, want to come join. And that's a great place to play and come play with me for free. And then I do master classes. And the best way is you can get a confidence on camera checklist at Captivate the Crowd. And that's with C's. Kathy's with K's and I'm with C's. So, Ro, thank you so much again for being here. You're like our, we're still learning the whole guest vibe thing. And we just love you. And I acknowledge you. And I want to thank you because your generosity and your huge heart really helped me in the beginnings of my business when I was sort of like lost in the wilderness, and you shone a light, and I know that you've done that for so many of us.
Thank you, Ro.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thanks
both
so
of
much
you.
for having me. This was fun. Love what you ladies are doing. And this was great. This was fun.
Okay.
See, this is
Awesome.
fulfillment.
Everybody.
And
Fulfillment.
thank you for giving me that place to really expose a hidden secret that I was having. It's no longer a secret, so now it's okay. Now
Yeah.
it's all good.
Thanks for
So
sharing
thank you.
that. Beautiful.
Thank you for
Awesome.
listening.
Drop
And
the
we'll
mic.
see you next time. Thank you so much.